The topic of today's conversation is sales and marketing's role in transformational change. Between March and May, business was disrupted on an unprecedented scale. The economy is now opening back up, and in fact, today's retail sales indicated that we may be in for a V-shaped recovery. But the world, nevertheless, has permanently changed. Our objective today is to have an interactive and insightful discussion on how companies can survive and thrive in this changed world by adapting their sales and marketing efforts to this new reality. Our first speaker today is Jamie Christensen, founder and CEO of Fuse Associates, a marketing firm offering fractional marketing strategy and implementation services to small businesses. Over Jamie's 20-year career, she's worked with a range of companies, from a global Fortune 500 company to startups. Along the way, she determined that small businesses needed access to corporate caliber marketing experts, but only on an as-needed basis and at a budget level that worked for their businesses. 4 years ago, she founded Fuse Associates to fill that market need. Jamie, I'm going to unshare my screen now and give you an opportunity to share your screen.
Okay. Which screen are you seeing? Let's make sure I've got the right one.
We've got it. You're good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Christensen.
Good morning, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here and just want to give a huge thank you to Jeff and all of the Business Pros group for putting this together. I'm thrilled to be working with Debbie on this and excited for this conversation. Of course, we always like to do these in person, but we'll do our best to make this as close to something in person as we can. So as Jeff mentioned, this is really talking about sales and marketing and transformational change. And the reason we named it that is really because, you know, this definitely has been a challenging and different environment than any of us could have imagined going into it. But when we look at sales and marketing, just the role within an organization is so key to everything an organization does and the success of that organization. So while we're going to focus on, you know, how have things looked different over the last couple of months, this is also really looking forward, giving you some ideas of things you should be considering if you're not already, and also clearing up some misconceptions around sales and marketing. Prior to the webinar, we did ask our business pros and some of our other partners to submit questions. So we plan to answer most of those questions through our presentation. As Jeff mentioned, please go ahead and add any extras that you have into the chat. And we'll make sure, you know, we want to keep this very focused on how we can help you and answer the questions that you have. So I've prepared a few slides. Don't worry, there's not a lot of words on them. And, you know, then we'll go from there. So I'll kick off. And then hand it over to Debbie here shortly. Okay, so what is marketing? Often marketing and sales are used interchangeably. And so Debbie and I thought it was very important to just throw this out here. Marketing is not sales. You know, salespeople, they should be out in the market. They're bringing in that business. They're taking leads that marketing has hopefully given them and closing those leads. Often what we see is either a mix of, you know, salespeople ending up having to do marketing, or sometimes they're not even being a marketing department. So marketing, and how I describe it, is it's how a business communicates with your audience. I love the term tribe. Because I just feel like that really brings people together. But it's everything a company does to build their brand, internally, externally, within the community. So it's not just colors, it's not look and feel or your logo. It is all about your reputation and bringing people into the business. And you know, marketing and sales, we'll talk a lot about this. They go hand in hand and should be a partnership. But even when you look at what are the skill sets between a marketer and a salesperson, they're often very different. So wanted to get that out of the way, and also point out, you know, marketing is everything you do. And especially, you know, what we've seen over the last couple of months, not only with COVID, but also even with the social unrest that we see, you know, it's core in how you do things. Okay, so what has changed this year? You know, that's really where we started this conversation, is what can we offer to show how things have really pivoted. And I know that's a key term we've all been using, probably overusing. I'm going to argue that not much has changed, at least from a long-term marketing perspective. You know, it's still important for you to be building a brand, and making sure that everything you do is aligned. So whatever brand you think you're putting out to the market, making sure that that actually is how the market perceives you. I think what has changed is the need to show up. You know, we've all heard stories about brands that have gone quiet, or companies that have gone quiet through this period. Obviously, there's some industries that they've had no choice, their business has evaporated. But for those of us that still have clients, have opportunities in the market, sticking our heads in the sand, I would argue now more than ever, can't happen. And I'm proud to say that most of the people that I suspect are on this call, and that we interact with on a daily basis, would agree that, you know, we're out there hitting it really hard, and we need to continue to do that. I think, you know, something I did want to focus on is differentiation. I've got the Apple picture because it's so easy for there to be a sea of sameness. You know, it's often we want to look like our company is in line with what our competitors are doing, and maybe not stick out too much. And I think, you know, in this time, and moving from an economy that money was flowing freely, everything was moving in a positive direction, to really the market seizing up, you have to be able to show and talk about how is what you're doing different from your competitor. So coming up with those differentiated points is extremely important. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can do that, because there's definitely some, I'd say, normal ways companies go about doing things that marketing can really help with, and or that you may be able to do on your own to help with that differentiation. Another thing is just alignment across the company. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is because, you know, we're all under a lot of stress this year from a lot of different angles. And when people are stressed, they don't always act like they would when everything's in a great position. So I think alignment is extremely important, alignment across sales and marketing. You know, everyone's having to make pivots, and making sure that you're having regular conversations when we're not all in the same location anymore is something that has become even more important. And I'd say that's something I hear a lot with my clients, is just making sure that everyone in an organization knows what what each side of the business is doing. And then also that your culture is really aligning with what your marketing messages say. And again, I think this is showing up a lot in the social unrest that we have, and how whether it be a rogue employee that makes a bad decision, or unfortunately some CEOs, whatever that looks like, making sure that there's extremely clear communication to all stakeholders within your business is extremely important. And then, as I said, the showing up, you know, we all have to show up every day, be present, and make sure that people that need our help know we're there to help. And okay, so next up, how do you reach your market? And again, this is an extremely abbreviated presentation, but you know, there's definitely some core things. Know your tribe. You cannot be all things to all people. you know, and those that are taking a scattershot approach or not honing in on who needs their products the most, you're not going to make inroads. And again, this is something I talk a lot with clients and prospects about, and I'm sure Debbie can add her 2 cents as well. But making sure you've clearly defined and everyone in your organization knows and is on board with who your market is the only way to ensure that you're getting the results you're looking for in your business. You know, with this in mind, knowing your tribe, also making sure you're consistently marketing, having conversations, having your salespeople out there. There's a lot of opportunity for this online. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts that we've all seen. Everything has gone online, including, you know, these presentations. And I think historically people, especially in the B2B space, haven't been as quick to pick up using social media, in particular LinkedIn. But I can tell you from my own experience that LinkedIn, selling online, having advertisements that are targeted to your audience, those do work. And there are ways to stand out in today's environment. So if you're not already, if you don't have a clear social strategy, if you're not considering even ways to find new target markets, those are some things I would say you absolutely need to be doing now, because my personal opinion is for the foreseeable future, we'll still have a mix of these types of interactions where we're not in person, and then the in-person side as well. And then the last thing, you know, so if you know who your market is, you have to make sure that what you have to say is relevant. And I bring this up because I think especially earlier when we were all gearing up for COVID, if you were sending out marketing messages or having conversations, or maybe even had your marketing on autopilot, it might have been extremely disjointed with what your people, your clients, your prospects, your business partners were experiencing in their own business. So, you know, continuing to make sure that we're very specific, that wewe're thinking through, you know, how do we need to respond, or do we need to respond to different things going on within our economy, within the global organization or global community. All of that is extremely important. Okay, so now I've focused in on really online brand building, and the reason is because, you know, as we look at marketing, this is where a lot of us have had to focus, especially the last couple months. The biggest thing I'll say is, you know, we always say it's all about the client, it's all about your prospects, and you have to meet them where they are already at. So if that means your audience spends their weekends on Facebook, then you need to be showing up on Facebook. If it's B2B, then you need to be on LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. And I even wanted to point out, there's even other platforms like Nextdoor. I don't think many of us have businesses that would fit on that, but be really creative about thinking about where is your audience and how can you best take part in the conversations that your audience is engaged in. Content is still extremely important. And one of the questions I'm asked a lot is, you know, how do you stand out? We all get hundreds of emails a day. We constantly have our phones in our hands. How do you stand out? And that's where I point back to knowing your market, what's relevant, listening to what's important to them, and gearing your content to them. So, you know, we often use a blend of putting out our own blogs for clients, where clients are getting questions from their clients, and we'll talk about topics we know are of importance. And then we're also looking at third-party content. What can we share that will catch people's attention. Website. The website, yes, absolutely important, but more so I think than in the past, people often are finding you the first time through social content or through Google search. So your website is taking more of a supporting, what do I want to say, a role, as opposed to in the past, it might have been everything circled around your website. As I've mentioned, paid advertising for a lot of businesses, this does make sense. If you know your target market and have all of your messages and everything in alignment. I always caution with paid advertising that it's extremely easy to burn through a lot of money and to waste money if you don't know what you're doing. So this is the one area I absolutely encourage you to get an expert in, whether it's me or someone else. The platforms are not easy to learn, and you want to make sure you're doing it the right way. Something else that's changed, again, not just through COVID, but longer term, is video. I have to give a shout out to Jeff Sandine. He has been doing videos on LinkedIn, and they're fantastic. They're not overly produced, and we're no longer in an era where everything has to be extremely professional. It's more about authenticity, showing your personality, having an important message that people need to hear, and getting it out quickly. We're no longer in an era where we can wait weeks or months to get a message out. We just, that's not the speed of business anymore. And then, everything that I'm talking about really is there to support sales. So marketing, absolutely one of their main focuses is supporting sales, providing the salespeople with the messages, with the leads, with materials in some cases that they need to go out and close that business. So those are some of the main things I would highlight as you're looking at, okay, what should you be doing now if you're not already doing these things, or where maybe do you need to expand what you're already doing. Finally, on this slide, SEO. I always get a lot of questions on SEO. And I think SEO is a long-term play, definitely important for many businesses. Kind of depends on the size of your business, your audience, again, and making sure you've got budget for it, because it can be a very time-consuming as well as expensive endeavor many times. So something to think about. If you're not doing it, you could definitely explore it. Just know that out of everything we talk about, that's from a impact perspective, that is one of the things that often takes the longest to see a return on. Okay, so how can we be heard through the noise? This is one of my favorite topics. Number one thing, and almost every business I see does this, we as a business, we focus on what we do for others. It's not about what we do. It's not about what we think. It's about how do we solve our clients' pain. And so I think one of the biggest ways you can be heard through the noise or to stand out is really to focus on, look at it from the lens of your consumer and what are they experiencing and how can you help that? So at Fuse, one of the things we do is we use neuromarketing principles. So really getting into the emotional side of your message and your marketing to really connect with what I say, the lizard brain of everyone versus trying to rationalize. So that's something, I would encourage all of you to take a look at your website, do a quick audit. Does it say, we help people do X, Y, Z? Or does it say, put everything in first person? You need this, here's what we can deliver for you. Often that's a starting point that I recommend clients work on. The other thing, and this, again, everything kind of goes circular, but when you're looking at your target market, all you need is 1,000 true fans. Seth Godin, who is just an amazing thought leader in marketing and has been for 30 plus years, has really focused on this. And that's your minimum viable audience that you need. Once you have that, you can grow exponentially. But that's where we get back to, don't try to be all things for all people. Focus in on where you can have the biggest impact, what is their main pain, and how can you solve that pain for them. And then just wrapping up, how the things that I think about are, marketing isn't a one time a week. It's not a, let's do it for a month and we'll get results. It is a dedicated effort for the entire lifetime of your business. You have to show up every day. You have to be consistent. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. And often there's so many directions you can go with it that it's easy to overcomplicate it, but, keep it simple. And just remember, it is all about what your clients need and how you can deliver that. Okay, so that is the end of my section. Jeff, I've got some questions here that we received, but we may, do you want to handle those, have me handle those now? And you're on mute.
Let's handle the questions in chat, and we'll get to those other questions later.
Perfect. Okay.
So I love the neuromarketing topic. We have a question in chat. Someone's interested in more explanation about the rational brain versus the lizard brain.
Yeah. Okay. So if you've ever read anything on the brain, we've got the fully evolved part, which is, and I'm going to make up the stat. I'm not great at numbers off the top of my head, but the rational brain may be 5%. And that's the part that really focuses on data. The lizard brain or the emotional brain is what really makes the decision. So if your message is focused on data, on rationalizing why they need to buy your service, that is not going to impact them and get them to a decision like you will if you can really, again, focus on that pain and what's going to get them to go, oh my gosh, and have a sense of urgency. So that's a quick explanation. Happy to have another conversation on that. But it's really important because I'd say 90% plus of companies do focus on the rational part rather than the lizard brain.
Yep, that's a good explanation, and that applies to a lot of different things. We have another question. This one's from Cheryl Powers. How are you helping companies re-identify and adjust their target market, considering changing demographic and psychographic behaviors?
Oh, do we want to have another webinar? We do that through our strategy discussions. And that's just part of the ongoing conversations. Often it's making sure and asking our clients what kind of conversations are they having with their clients, and looking at, what's the feedback they're getting and how do we need to adjust from there. So, Cheryl, I think that's one we need a lot more time to be able to fully tackle.
Okay, let's see what we else. Okay, that's good. So that's everything we have in chat. So Jamie, we'll get back to you in the Q&A segment. If you could unshare your screen, and then I'll share a couple things on my side.
There you go.
All right. Next up is Debbie Mrazek, president of the sales company. Debbie helps people and businesses accelerate their sales cycles to the point where clients love to buy from them. Her clients include entrepreneurs, privately held companies, foreign governments, Fortune 500 companies. Debbie's a sales expert and an author of 13 books about selling, including the best-selling Field Guide to Sales, the all-weather, all-terrain guide to selling, which I'm sure is available on Amazon. A highly sought-after motivational speaker that absolutely loves empowering people to sell and achieve more. She turned her top 1% sales career into an in-demand sales consulting company. The Sales Company, where she engages sales teams and individuals to create predictive sales success. Ladies and gentlemen, Debbie Mrazek.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jamie. Great presentation. Delighted to be with you all today. And I really want to begin, as Jamie did, talking about sales and marketing. You know, forever there seemed to be a tension between these two, which is absolutely ridiculous, in my humble opinion. Marketing always precedes sales. Always. And if you think you can do sales without marketing, I'm not saying you might not have a modicum of success, but if you are really serious about setting up your marketing strategy and working that with your sales strategy, you will be in that top 1%, that top 10%. You know, when people look at what's the difference between that top percent versus the other 90%, it's in doing these things. They're the fundamentals. They're the basics. And, you know, the other thing over the years, you know, where people, you know, sales and marketing, well, you would never think of sales not working with accounting, sales not working with manufacturing, sales not working with logistics. Now, why in the world would sales not work with marketing? All of it is a puzzle. And it needs to work together. You just need to have to figure out how your pieces fit together. So Jamie, thank you so much for that today. And what a great setup for us. So I want to talk about doing sales in this time, but I want to back up for a moment. And I want to ask you, for some of you, this may be an uncomfortable question. And if you have not addressed it out loud to anybody, but you've just thought about it, I really want you to make a decision here. The question is, are you really open for business? Are you? Or are you ping-ponging like, oh, am I going to make it? Should I close? You know, should I let these people go? What should I do? Or are you open? If you have not made that decision, I want to encourage you highly to make it. Stick to it. If you're out, be out. Don't drag people along. But if you're in, and I pray that you're in, be open. So with that, and I'm going with the thought that all of you on here are going to remain open for business, then I want to ask you, before March, before COVID-19 shut us down, was your business for 2020, was it increasing? Was it decreasing? Or did it remain the same? Like you were just on a steady flow, January, February, March. And then tell yourself the truth about what has gone on since March in the last 90 days. Some of you who know me know my absolute shock over my business the last 90 days has been nothing short of extraordinary. I was in business at 9/11, and after 9/11, in 3 days, I had lost 85% of my business. Now, I will tell you, I think I'm pretty darn good at sales, but I am not good enough to replace 85% of my business quickly. So when March 30th, March 15th for me actually rolled around, I kind of mentally in my mind, you know, I had cash reserves, those kind of things. I'm thinking, okay, I can do this. I may have to revisit some things, but I expected it to go away. And I expected to have, you know, at least 30 days, like the governor was saying, you know, things were closed down, that I would have time to sit back, think, and work on things. But that Monday morning, March 16th, I had 20 voicemails on Monday morning on my phone. 20. When was the last time you had 20 dadgum voicemails on your phone? Never. Well, I assumed somebody had got spam over the weekend, but I religiously listened to each one. Well, 15 of them were people saying, hey, girl, I know you've been talking to me. I should have been working on my sales strategy. Looks like I have time. Could you help me? Hey, girl, I don't think my business is going to survive this. Maybe I need to do something different. Could you help me? I have been swamped the last 90 days. I am not complaining. I love it. But I share that with you to be honest, because some people I have found are doing very well through this time and they're feeling a little ashamed. Well, I don't want you to feel ashamed. I'm not going to feel ashamed. This is what keeps America going, is us working. So some of us are struggling, and so we're going to talk about how to make that better. But if you are doing well, embrace it and think about how can you do even better in this time. To the points that Jamie was making, what are some different things that you can add or different things that you can do? We have a wonderful member of our group, Kent Barner with CIO Suite, and when we were putting this together and asking for questions, Kent actually sent us a great article, or it was a blog post from his Vistage group, and it said, with all the changes, things are not business as usual. Even with your best customers, it's like starting over again. To learn all about them, find out how their needs and priorities have changed, and come up with new offerings, terms, support levels, etc., that can help your customers and prospects. This is a great opportunity to do something different. Kent, this was a fabulous post and to the point about staying open. And maybe it is we just do some additional things, some different things, and maybe we continue to do these different things from here on out. Just like, you know, how many of us were really aces at Zoom 90 days ago? Probably not many of us. And so now here we are. So maybe we would do things more virtually. I know I've been able to speak to a lot more people all over the country using this platform than what I normally do when I go there and speak in person. So decide, are you open? Be honest. Had your business increased or decreased? And so let's move forward. So if you're developing new offerings and new products, what are those? And what is your marketing plan for getting that word out? You can't expect people to say, oh, well, they're always up to something. I'm sure they'll tell us. No, you need to be proactive and tell them now, sooner or later. No 30 days from now. Tell them that you're thinking about it. This is what we're looking at. Call your customers. Ask them, what are they needing? What is different for them? All of us have seen the stories in the news about the guy who had the small manufacturing plant that was doing some kind of, plastics injection molding. Well, they were going to have to send all their people home. Well, now they're cutting out plexiglass and making windows for pharmacies and cashiers and, bus doors in the buses and things. This may be a gangbuster year for them. Think about the people who have companies that do cleaning, whether it's for office buildings or it's for retail centers and those kind of things. Well, their cleaning business may have been doing well, but think about what they're taking it up to now. They're going to have a blast kind of year, like huge celebration by the end of the second quarter, nonetheless, to see what they do by the end of the fourth quarter when they figure out how to get all their offerings for disinfecting and helping and doing all those things that they didn't expect to do. So be open to the possibilities and talk to others. So in selling right now, one of the biggest things and the most discomfort I hear from people talking to me about, Debbie, selling virtually. Okay, I agree 100%. Most of us have not been selling over a platform like Zoom in the past, or Skype or Facebook Live or any of those. I get that. But I want you to think about, you have been selling virtually for years at different points. You have sold on the phone. You have sold via email. You have sold via text. Anybody remember faxes? You've even sold via fax. All of those were virtual things that you had never done before a few years ago, and now you're all aces at it. You can communicate via email, text, fax, phone, all those things. So instead of thinking about Zoom being something like frightening or scary or whatever, it just is. And so learn it. Figure out. And the thing about it is, I believe, until we can see each other in person, this is our best alternative for selling. So I encourage you to embrace it. Anybody who knows me knows I am a person to person. I cannot wait. I've said I have a hug to-do list when this is over, and you're on it. I cannot wait to see humans again. But the truth of the matter is, some people have gotten better at their sales, not having to go be in person, but to be virtual, that they are more comfortable not being in the same room with you. So as always, people buy different and people sell different. We're all different. So before, you might have asked your client, how would you like me to follow up with you? Would you like me to follow up with you via phone? Would you like me to follow up via text? And you would have done as they said. But now, virtually, somebody may say, I prefer you follow up to me with Zoom. Well, then you're going to follow up with Zoom, and you're not going to have a picture. You're actually going to be on there live, and you're going to communicate with them the way in which they want to communicate. So I encourage you to embrace virtual just as you've embraced the telephone, text, email, all these other virtual things over the years. So we had one of our questions, and I apologize, I hit send too quickly over here, but wonderful Leonard Linsky asked about, in doing the virtual and, seeing people like this, is it okay to ask for the order? Leonard, it is always okay to ask for the order, always. So if you are doing, like Jeff Sandine has been doing video, and others of you on here I know have been doing video, you need to be telling people, sharing with them, number one, what you're there to share with them and help them with. But if you have no call to action, you have no ask for the order, then what in the world are you doing this for? You are in business to do business. So like I put a link over there. If you have questions for me or some way I can help you, I would love for you to fill that out and send it to me. But I would ask you, are you offended by me including that in the chat? If you are one who is offended by that, then probably this isn't going to work for you. But for me, I know most people are not offended by me asking them, how can I help them, and giving them a way to communicate with me about them. So I hope all of you are having a call to action with who you're talking to, and that you are asking for the order in this time, because there is money out there. Not everybody doesn't have money, and it may be they have money, they're just not sure they're going to spend with you, and until you ask for the order, you won't know why. So please, please, please do that. So one of the things that came from another question is about what is compelling? What is compelling to people? Well, this gets back to what Jamie was saying. What are you doing? What are you offering? What problem do you solve? Name the problem. So somebody asked me the other day, so what do I say when I call somebody, they don't answer the phone, and I leave a voicemail? So all of you know we're in June. Today is June 16th. In a normal year for me, June is my busiest month of the year, because people have gotten from January to June, thought they had it all figured out, get to June and go, oh no, I don't. And now what am I going to be able to do from June to December to actually make it happen? So what I do, my question I leave on people's voicemails is, hi, this is Debbie. I'm sorry I missed you today. How bad are you missing the second quarter on your numbers? What is this going to cost you in your bonus for the second quarter? Let me tell you something. 9 times out of 10, I get a call back if somebody is really worried about their sales. Now, if they're doing great, they may not. But to leave a question, because I know that the problem that I solve is helping people figure out their sales and grow them. It may not grow them to exactly what they wanted, but to grow them some to get them to where they want to go. So what is your compelling question? What is the problem that you solve for people? And state it and be clear about it. Don't use fancy words. Be direct, be to the point. If you have taken the time to pick up the phone and call somebody and they're not there, don't waste your dime. Leave a voicemail. It's up to them whether they listen to it or not, but you finish. You called to talk to them on their voicemail. Once again, we're selling virtually here. You can do it. You know, when people ask, one of the other things was, you know, some people just think they can figure out everything for themselves. I'm sure most of y'all know Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil's from Wichita Falls, and so am I. And I actually graduated with his wife, Robin, from high school. And Dr. Phil has this thing that he always asks. So he says, how's that working for you? So when people tell me, oh, things aren't how they want, but they're doing it all themselves, you know, I'm like, so in the words of Dr. Phil, how's that working for you? So if you see people out there really struggling, trying to do it for themselves, ask them that open-ended question and be quiet. How's that working for you? Be quiet. Make them wiggle. They may be uncomfortable, but whatever they're going to tell you next, the way in which you respond may be an excellent marketing opportunity for you to be able to sell to that person. So yes, and of course, there always are going to be people that they can do it just fine by themselves. God love them. But thankfully for the rest of them, the reason we're all in business is because we're here to help people and they need us. So ask them. Right now, in thinking about what you need, I know some of you on here know the rule of 250, but if you'll allow me real quickly, the rule of 250 is that each and every one of us, I mean, every single one of us on this webinar today know at least 250 people. So if you know who it is you want to do business with today, you can name the company, you can name the person. You need to let everybody in your 250 know who you want to meet. People want to help you, but we make it so dadgum difficult for them by telling them what all our degrees and what all our offerings and everything are, instead of making it easy for them just to introduce us to who we want to know. So, and the deal with the rule of 250, looking at the names that I'm seeing here on this webinar today, I'm willing to bet every single one of us on here knows more than 250 people. Heavens, I know even on my LinkedIn, I've got 7,000 people. In my personal database, I've got 12,000. So yes, we're beyond 250. I'm not sure which one of you are the math geniuses in here, but even if we all only knew 250 times 50 some people we have here, that's a lot of people. Who do you want to meet? Tell us all who you want to meet. And if you have not been on the Business Pros LinkedIn group page yet, for heaven's sakes, come join us, Business Pros, the Alliance of Business Professionals on LinkedIn group. Talk to us there. Tell us who you want to know, who you want to meet. We all want to help you, just like we love it when you help us. So who do you know? Think about if you were new today and coming straight out of college and you truly didn't know anybody, and you had a business development position or a sales position, what in heaven's name would you do? Everybody that's on this call, this webinar rather, has experience, knows people, and has the ability to ask us. You have gained our respect, our regard over your work and your integrity and everything you've done all the years. Just ask us for what you want and we will help you. This may be your fastest and quickest way to get to what you want to have happen for your second quarter. So with that, what I want to suggest that you do during these times when everything is feeling so disjointed and hectic, make sure you have a plan for yourself that, and I understand many of you are like myself, we're one-person companies, so we have many responsibilities in our day, not just sales. But for the time that you have each day to do sales, make sure you have a plan every day for your sales, every week, every month, every quarter, and for the year. You know, I preach and preach and preach about having a sales forecast, but you need to break that down, and every day you need to be doing something towards your sales. And if you're not, it's fine. Start today. Start today. Okay, so know what it is that you're actually selling, know who it's to, know who you want, know that you are open for business. Virtual is not going to kill you. You're going to get through this and you're going to be better with the process. And the other thing is, there's not a one of us on here, even though it may feel this way right now. We are not alone. This is an incredible community of people here to serve and help one another. So I always say you don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to get started to be great. So if you've been hanging back, you know you really haven't been doing it, we won't call you on it because we don't know. But stop it today. You don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to get started to be great. Thank you for having me today.
That was awesome, Debbie. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, we have one question in chat. It's from Cheryl Powers.
All right.
He's referring more to businesses with field sales forces.
Yes.
How are you helping businesses with outside sales motivate during this time where there's little time in the office and everybody's working remote?
Absolutely. So, you know, outside salespeople will tell you, you know, they hate Monday morning meetings. They hate getting together. Ignore them. You know, they are human and they need to gather right now. And they may need to gather more than just your traditional Monday morning meeting. Think of it like a check-in meeting with your team. Say you normally have a Monday morning meeting where you're talking about your go-to actions for the week. You're doing a recap of your numbers for last week and you're deciding, you know, we're at June 16th. This is how much we need to do this month. This is what we're going to do to get there this week. But for now, I think you cannot over communicate. So maybe on Wednesdays, instead of having a Wednesday morning meeting like over coffee, maybe late Wednesday afternoon, and you have a meeting where it is mandatory. It's not like come if you like. It's like Monday morning meetings. It's mandatory, but bring your field team in late Wednesday afternoon. Think of it like a happy hour, you know, have a Coke, have a glass of tea, and just say, hey, how's the week going? Are we on target from Monday? You know, we're looking good. And just check in with them. It's like, you know, sort of doing a sanity check. Some people are doing great right now, but some people are really not. So you just want to kind of take their, you know, like we're taking our temperature for everybody. You just want to take their pulse. And then on Friday before the weekends, you know, send them a group email, you know, congratulate them, recap what the things are they've done great this week, and tell them you look forward to Monday morning meeting. But right now you need to be communicating more than less. Cheryl, great question.
Good deal. Hey, Jamie, I have a question for both of you in chat. We're gonna, for those of you that have other questions, just start typing them in to the chat box, and we'll get to those. But this question really is for both of you, and it's from Michael Battaglia. So you have B2B versus the B2C markets. In the B2B market, getting to a CEO who's very busy and needs to stay on point, CEO, business owner, how do you get them to focus on the issue that you want to talk to them about, kind of rise above the day-to-day grind and have those kind of conversations?
Jamie, you want to start?
Sure. I think the best way, and I've used this personally in my own business, is to focus on that CEO's pain. So I'm going to go back to the neuromarketing, the idea of, you know, throw out the questions to him and you know, how you can help him or her with what their needs are. Maybe you're seeing something either in the market they operate in, or potentially even in their own business that you've noticed, and you can say, hey, you know, have you thought about this? And I have truly found reaching out through LinkedIn, often you get better responses than just sending emails. So I don't discount the ability to get to people through LinkedIn.
I agree. And one of the things that I've been doing, I have forever in my career, well over 25 years now, I write thank you notes every day. And I write other little notes about things and all. But one of the things that I've been doing since all of this started is I've been sending handwritten notes to CEOs to say, hey, We are with you. We've been your customer. We're going to be your customer when you come out of here. You know, hang tough, hang tight. You know, I do sales. There's anything I can do to help you because this is what I see going on in your business. And so I'll give you an example of one. I did not hear back from him. Gary Kelly, the CEO of Southwest Airlines, lives in my neighborhood. I do not know him, you know, personally at all. Our children went to school together, but we don't know each other. But send him a note because I love Southwest Airlines and my daughter lives in LA. So I am going to be back on Southwest Airlines. Well, I got a note back from his wife saying how touched he was by the note and that those are the kind of things that are getting them through. Didn't ask me anything about sales or anything, and that's fine. But it's like, you know, if you're communicating and putting that out there, there are people, I am definitely with Jamie about this LinkedIn. I've had people respond to me, answer my, you know, messages and stuff at that level that don't normally do it. But I would encourage you not to forget the good old fashioned snail mail and send a genuine note and be genuine, be authentic, be yourself. If it's something that you really care about in their business and you have compassion for what it is that they're going through, because I cannot imagine being a CEO in America today, public or private large company, cannot. It's just got to be brutal. So supporting them and being human.
Jamie, I have a follow-up question for you on your LinkedIn commentary. I agree that it's a great place to start a conversation, but I've heard different things about trying as quickly as possible to move it from LinkedIn to email to live types of conversations. Do you have any suggestions, or either of you have any suggestions on how you could do that and go from a virtual connection to a live connection, either in person, face-to-face, or on Zoom?
There's a couple of ways that I do this, and we do it for our lead generation clients. And you know, the main two ways, saying, hey, really would love to continue this conversation. Here's my email and phone number. Another great one is if you use a calendar service like Calendly, you can go ahead and put the Calendly link in. But yes, you do want to get that conversation out of LinkedIn as quickly as possible. From a selfish standpoint, I just find it's easier not to have to manage multiple different
right.
channels, but yeah, get it out.
Good deal.
So from a sales perspective, think about just you individually, your normal sales cycle. Do you usually get a piece of business after 2 contacts with somebody, 5, a year? You know, what is it? Whatever it is normally, it probably is going to take a little longer now, because you're not having the opportunity to start in person as you would sometimes. So I would ask you again to be realistic about what is normally your sales cycle. God love you if you have something that sells, you know, the first time you speak to somebody. We want to know you. But most of us, there's a sales cycle, you know, where we reach out, you know, it's generally our marketing reaching out to somebody, and then we may have an email, we may have a phone call, that kind of thing. But, you know, whatever it is, communicating, even if you communicate in the wrong way, like you're trying to reach out to somebody versus, you know, via LinkedIn and they prefer email. Well, you know, ask them, figure it out as quick as possible and get to that. But again, with your rule of 250, if whoever you're trying to reach, somebody else you know already knows them and can tell you, hey, listen, they hate LinkedIn with a passion, or they hate email with a passion. So how's best to get a hold of them? Leave them a voicemail, send them a text, you know, whatever it is. As quickly as possible, figure out how they like to be communicated with. And also from a sales perspective, think about how you like to be communicated with. I love to communicate in person. We all know that's not happening right now, but it doesn't matter, because my job is always, I'm selling. So I need to communicate the way the other person wants to communicate, not necessarily the way I prefer. And I see a lot of salespeople still wanting to communicate the way they prefer. It's not, you know, it's not that it never works, but it'll work better for you the sooner you figure out how they like to communicate.
Debbie, I have actually a follow-up on your rule of 250, and it's kind of an intentional one-on-one, where if you're having a one-on-one with a person, whether it's in person or on Zoom, and you have people that you're targeting, see if that person knows any of the people that you're trying to reach. Or in contrast, you could also go to the person you're trying to reach's LinkedIn profile and see who you know that knows them, right? And reach out to them and see if they know them well. So.
Absolutely. I ask people all the time, if I sent you an email today and said, "Hi, Jeff, hope you're doing well, you know, during these tough times here. Quick question for you. I'm looking to meet 1, 2, 3, and name the person or name the company. If you know any of them, would you let me know? And then finish by, let me know if there's anything I can do to help you, Debbie." Would you be offended by that email or text or message on LinkedIn?
Not in the least, no.
Not many people would be. And so that's what I am saying. And I do a lot in our Dallas-Fort Worth community here with churches that have career outreach programs, because I believe finding a job is a sales issue when you feel least like selling yourself. And that is the #1 piece of advice I give them. You know, everybody you know, everybody, because you have no clue who their neighbor is, who they used to work with, where they are now. Ask everybody you know, the 3 companies, the 3 people you want to know, but always end the request by saying, "And how can I help you?" That is just simply how our culture works, to complete the circle. And people know when you're just taking and they don't respond. But when you're asking and you're offering to give, you will be stunned how many. I had a client this week that only had 180 contacts on their LinkedIn. Well, that 180 is probably better than my thousands, because those 180 they know well. And I made them do this exercise, and they already had more responses this week in interviews and things than they could imagine. You ask and you shall receive. Don't ask, you won't get.
We have another question coming up from Chad. It's from Mark Midford. Jamie, he's asking about, with a limited marketing budget, where is it best spent? Where should someone start first?
I always hate to give an answer that depends, but it really does depend on your individual business. You know, I am all about strategy. So, you know, I think if you don't have a strategy, at least getting a strategy put in place. And then if it's you implement that strategy, great, but getting that high level, you know, setting out your goals. Here are the activities you need to hit to reach those goals. Here are the different types of marketing to do. I would point to that. I would also say, and this is where I differ a lot from a lot of marketers, you don't need a ton of sales materials. So you know, and that was like that was a huge shift in my mindset when I went into my own business, because I was used to always providing tons of materials, but don't spend it on materials. Your salespeople should be able to sell without materials. So other than that, I apologize, but we'd have to talk more about your specific situation.
And Jeff, I see a question on here that I really would like to address, and I apologize, I may be mispronouncing your name, but it's Avias, and he says, what can be a marketing and selling strategy for a product service which is not essential for survival, like higher education? If any of you all are thinking you cannot sell right now because what you sell is not necessary for life, for us to survive, for heaven's sakes, let go of that. You know, when we started earlier by saying it's a puzzle, all of these things work together. Not every one of us is in the pharmaceutical business, you know, finding a cure, you know, for this virus. We all have got to be doing what we do to keep the entire infrastructure in our nation going. So please, please don't anyone think, you know, what I'm selling is not very important, so I shouldn't be selling it now. Please do not do that, please.
Lynn O'Neill had asked a question too that I think we might have missed, and that was on, it looks like her major market is senior citizens and assisted living communities, and how to reach that market. Lynn, if you're going direct to consumer, Facebook, especially right now, when, you know, especially those with health issues, senior citizens can't be out. They are spending, all of us are spending more time on screens, but they are especially spending time on screens. And that's where they're at.
And
Debbie,
I would also, oh, I'm sorry, Debbie.
I was just going to hand it over to you.
I was just going to say, and also in assisted living centers, some of course are very large, you know, they're part of national corporations, you know, there's many of them, but many assisted living centers, like I know the one my father's in Wichita Falls, this is a small center with the person who runs it, you know, office is right there. You have to walk by her office every time you go to my dad's wing, you know, and all. So just getting on the phone and calling, so maybe not the huge, you know, multinational or multi-state ones, but, you know, some of the smaller ones in your county, in your city, in your state, just picking up the phone, calling back to the leaving a compelling voice message.
Cool. Back to social media. I mean, it is, especially if somebody's on a limited budget, it's always a good way to get moving. What if trying to reach people on social media and directing them to your website by using an offer, something of value, so that you can get them onto your CRM and on your mailing list? Is that a good enough call to action? Either one of you can take it, but just getting someone to your website to register for something.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I think it has to be pretty compelling because it's getting harder and harder to get people to give up their information. I'd also say, especially if you're on social media, there's ways that both, you know, I focus a lot on LinkedIn and Facebook as major platforms, but there's ways to push your information directly through their platform, which Facebook especially prefers you do, and actually gives you more access to people if you're doing that type of stuff. So, you know, yes, you absolutely want to try to get people into your system and over to your website, but just make sure you've got something really great to offer them.
Okay, good deal.
Debbie, what do you think?
Well, you know, I just think that is just it, Jamie. I mean, and you want to have something great to offer always, whether it's good times or bad times. You know, it is. You know, what have you got?
So it looks like we're running low on questions. Why don't we do this? Why don't each of you give us one or two takeaways that you really want people to go forth and act upon and start doing right now. Jamie, let's go with you first.
Okay, so I have got to reinforce what Debbie did such a great job talking about, and that's sales and marketing have to work together. I have been in organizations where we worked fantastic, and I've been in organizations where we are at odds. I would argue that it's a larger culture issue. Make sure that you've got a culture that's working, that your teams are working as one team, bring them together, have them communicating regularly. That's the only way to be successful. And there's absolutely no reason why sales and marketing shouldn't be working together. So that's my number one. And then the other thing, just kind of piggybacking off what Debbie had said around, you know, getting used to using Zoom and different things. For many people, this has really opened up markets. So I've heard from multiple people, especially here in Dallas-Fort Worth, that now with Zoom, they may be more comfortable expanding into other states, into different cities. Really think about that and see if there's a real reason why you have to stay with the only market that you're in. So, and then, like I said, it's all about your client. So just keep that lens with everything that you're doing.
Excellent. And you know, one of the things that I would say is, you know, and y'all get A+ today for being here. There are plenty of people that have not done a webinar, have not learned something new, haven't tried something new in the next 90 days, they've like just gone in their little hole and they've stayed there. You know, we may not all know exactly what we need to be doing right now, but we are out here and we are learning and we're still taking in information and we're asking questions. And so that showing up, you know, I have said for years from a sales perspective, you must be present to win. You know, people are not just going to call you and give you business. You must be present. Well, right now you have to be present virtually. So show up. You will never, I mean, it's just like it works in person. You know, you're at a meeting sometimes, like Lynn's going to have Entrepreneurs Connection next Wednesday. We're still doing it virtually instead of at the network bar. But the speaker, you know, will say something. You'll go, oh my gosh, I needed to hear that. You know, I was on one this week. I think Olia has got off the call here, but the Women in Manufacturing's group had a meeting this week, and a client of mine and I had been talking about some of the money that's already out there and approved. So, you know, we're talking about we don't have enough sales, we don't have enough money, but at our state government, our federal government, there is already money out there, money that's approved, but we don't know how to get it. I'll be darned if I wasn't on this call and the speaker said, oh, and you know, when I figured out how to get money from federal funding, and she went on and told how to do it, I just almost flipped out. I couldn't get off that call quick enough to call my client to say, oh my God, this is how you do it. You know, so showing up, being present to win, you know, being open for new possibilities. And really, my biggest thing is you are not alone. Tell us what you need, what you want. Let us all help one another.
Well, ladies, this was just awesome. I can't just pick another word to describe it. We're going to have to end there with a few things. But here's everyone. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Hang on, everyone.
Jeff, you're prepared.
Yeah, I did. I actually worked on this ahead of time. Let's see. Let's go with this one instead. There we go. So I'll leave that up for just a second. Let's give Jamie and Debbie a virtual round of applause. They did an awesome job today.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be with you.
All right. So let's talk for just a minute about Business Pros, and then we'll let you get on with your day, end a little early. And by the way, I will email this presentation to everybody that was on the webinar. You'll all get a link to the cloud where you can take a look at this. So Business Pros is organized to offer high quality education content like today. We have 26 members and we're available to help business owners in just about any capacity. If you have any questions about the resources that the group can provide to you, please contact me.